This is a very packed day, so moving on with the theme and in recognition of World Women's Day today, through the day and tomorrow we have a lot of really good panels with very strong women, and in that regard we're super excited to have the next spotlight, which will be given by Rohini. She's been a champion, an influencer, and a very strong supporter of collaboration and of Dasra. In the last 10 years, she has been there throughout with us on this journey. And I don't want to waste any more time, and I'll request Rohini to please come on stage.
सर्वांना नमस्कार, especially आंतरराष्ट्रीय महिला दिवसाच्या वती आम्ही इथे नेहमी मुंबईला आले की एखादं वाक्य तरी मराठीमध्ये बोलावं असं वाटतं कारण मातृभाषेसारखी गोड भाषा नसते. So namaskar to everybody. It gives me great pleasure to come to Dasra functions. I've been there watching them and very happy to see that it is one of the intermediary ecosystem institutions in philanthropy that has been able to perform at some scale. And from the get-go, their theme has been collaboration. Everything has been designed around that. So I think for that, let's just take a second to give Dasra a good big hand. So we've all come a long way in the philanthropy sector in India. Apart from the older, very well-known philanthropists, we are seeing the arrival of so many new and very serious and committed philanthropists to the sector getting engaged. And yet, as we look around, we see that no matter which sector we are engaged in as civil society institutions, as corporate CSR agencies, or as philanthropists, that whichever area we tend to engage in, the problem seems to rush ahead faster than our approach, our solution, and we don't seem to quite get there. You saw the presentation just before, and even today, 70 years later, after so many people working in the area of education, so many civil society organizations, most of the philanthropy has gone to the education sector. But if you look at this year's ASAR report, it feels like we might have failed our children. Even now, so many of them cannot do division multiplication in class 5. Where are they going to land later? We know that. So it's very important for us to understand why perhaps that we have not achieved as much as we would like to, though we have done so much, and I really believe in the power of intent. So I think we are going to do better, but societal problems are very complex, and none of us individually or even as sectors like philanthropy, civil society, markets, state, we cannot achieve those things on our own. We know that. Not even if just two of those collaborate. It really requires the whole continuum of Samaaj, Bazaar, and Sarkar, civil society, states, and markets to work together with reduced friction to actually solve very complex societal issues. Which is why we come to collaborative action, which is why we come to collaboration. It is absolutely essential because different actors in these sectors offer, excuse me, offer different skill sets and have different contexts from which to come at a problem from multi-sides on. Luckily, there is a lot more opportunity today to be on collaborative platforms such as Dasra itself or Co-Impact, which is going to be talked about here, I'm sure. We have several others. There's the India Philanthropy Initiative. Some of us got together to look at an area like independent media and help set up a collaborative giving platform called IPSMF. A very new and exciting area that we are looking at in collaboration is climate change. Some of us led by the Tata Trust have set up the India Climate Collaborative, and it has fairly ambitious goals to spur the ecosystem around working on climate change. So there's tremendous opportunity right now to think of collaboration. And I'm sure today and tomorrow there's going to be a lot of talk on it. I'm just highlighting that this is essential. In our work, my husband Nandan and I, over the last 4 or 5 years, have begun to see how we can create a framework around collaboration. We are calling it societal platform thinking, and my colleagues are going, Sanjay Purohit and others are going to be speaking to this tomorrow. But collaboration is easier to talk about than to actually do, because it is not at all easy. There's a lot of friction to collaborate. And maybe two reasons that we cannot achieve the outcomes that would come only through collaborating is that we are not able to take enough risk, that we are not able to really embrace risk. We don't know perhaps how to trust, how to let go, how to get out of our comfort zones and do things that we know might fail. So embracing risk is a lot about failure and the ability to trust. When I say trust, it means if you are a philanthropist, you have to be able to trust your grantee partners, give them enough flexibility to change what they are doing based on context, the ability to not ask them to give ridiculous amounts of reporting so that you feel you're doing all right as a philanthropist. You have to be able to lead with trust. And I've found, at least in my 30-year-old journey in this space, that the more I'm able to trust, of course there are some caveats to whom you work with. You should be able to work with trustworthy partners. But once you start off with the relationship of trust, magic happens. I'm sure you all know that, but I just wanted to highlight that that is a very key thing if you want to achieve social outcomes. The embracing risk and allowing ourselves to trust, it really opens up our minds and opens up spaces for us to act in. We have to be prepared when we embrace risk, of course, to embrace failure. And once you say, I am willing to fail, it allows you to go where you have not gone before with much more confidence. So today, for example, I think the need of the hour, as our economy is growing and as our government is able to do much more social spending, there's a lot of attention being paid to how we can implement government programs better. And certainly CSR has become even better at doing that over the last few years. There are many civil society organizations that help government achieve its own mandate better at the implementation level. But there are so many areas of society that don't get looked at enough, where government is not necessarily doing enough, and where we as philanthropists and civil society organizations need to do much more. Look at issues like mental health. Look at the disability panel that was speaking today, calling us to do more action. Look at issues like justice, access to justice. So many other issues, new issues on environment, livelihoods, that perhaps if we were to embrace risk and not fear to fail, we would go into those areas as philanthropists, as new CSO organizations, and innovate stuff that could get us out of the usual rut of our societal problems. Because otherwise we keep saying that, social sector doesn't scale. Social sector, even if the organizations don't scale, it is the issue that has to be played out at scale. And here is where if philanthropists, if corporate philanthropy and personal philanthropy are able to say, all right, I'm going to go into a slightly risky area such as justice, and allow people to innovate, to fail a little perhaps, but then to understand why they failed and try new things. I really believe that 10 years later, when we come back to look at what's happened in this new age of Indian philanthropy, we will be able to show something new that perhaps has not been tried before. Sometimes I wonder if we are suffering from a lack of imagination. When Vinoba Bhave started Bhudan, or when Gandhiji started the salt satyagraha, they were thinking at a universal human level of change. And maybe now when we talk about one district or even 10 districts at a time, maybe that is not enough. At least some of us should be able to say that we will go beyond just doing incremental things. And that means talk at a much larger scale about at a population scale. How can we bring change at a population scale? There is a method to achieving that. Intent is not enough. And the collaborative frameworks that you need for that need to be designed for scale. That is always very important. My colleagues will talk much more about this tomorrow. Failure, again, I want to touch for a bit on failure because I don't think we talk enough about failure in the sector. Failure can lead to a lot of stuff, very interesting stuff. Certainly in 30 years, we have failed repeatedly in the work that I do. And in an article I recently wrote, I was thinking of how Gandhi actually failed as a lawyer here. He just couldn't get his practice together. And then he embraced risk and set off in a boat to South Africa. And look what one failure led to. It led to the transformation of humanity in some sense. So we should not be afraid to fail, but then immediately thereafter to embrace risk and set out to sail to shores yet unseen. I felt 3 lessons from all the failures that I was able to, I hope, embrace in 30 years of working in the social sector. Some of the 3 quick lessons that I just want to talk is, sometimes when we started Nagarik for safer roads, for example, way back in 92, I think we didn't understand the root cause why our roads are not safer. And when you don't go deep enough to analyze and abstract whatever problem you're working on, you tend to work on just band-aid solutions, and the whole thing collapses under its own weight. The second thing I understood when I worked in Akshara Foundation, Pratham Books, Arghyam, and now Ek Step, is that you need to clearly demarcate the role of Samaaj, Bazaar, and Sarkar and not confuse it. Allow Samaaj to do what it does best, allow Sarkar to do what it does best, and encourage Bazaar to do what it knows how to do best. But if you force Bazaar to go below the line of profitability, if you expect Sarkar to do what citizens should be doing, if you expect citizens to take on the onus of what Sarkar should be doing, it tends to create confusion and not achieve the societal outcome you need. And the last thing I learned was, and this is very important for philanthropists to really understand, is that if you really want societal level transformation, none of us have the answers, right? But there are people who have answers in their own context. How do we distribute the ability to solve? A very key way to distribute the ability to solve, instead of pushing one solution down the pipe, is to open up, to create platforms and to allow public goods to be created from the work that we do. So for example, in Pratham Books, once we realized that we had to open up the creation, the distribution, the sale of books, the translation, once we created a Creative Commons platform where everybody could do what they do best, we were able to scale to tens of millions of children. So this is a very important lesson. When philanthropic capital is being used, that capital in the hands of government would otherwise be taxed, right? So we owe it to the work that we do, to the ambitions that we have, that we deliberately work now, especially now in the digital age, to create open digital public goods so that other people can build and innovate on a platform that we help to support as philanthropists in areas that perhaps people have not been bold enough to go before. So I would like to close, because I see the 2-minute sign, that maybe today, at the end of 2 decades of work of Dasra, the beginning of a 3rd decade, in some sense, Dasra's journey is synonymous with new age of Indian philanthropy. As we begin this 3rd decade and rededicate ourselves, let us all say today, no matter who we are, no matter what work we are doing, that we commit to saying that at least in one area, we will not just do incremental, but transformational. And we will do that through collaboration, we will do that through embracing risk, and we will do that without fear of failure. So on this International Women's Day, let me again say thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm sorry, but like a bad penny, I'm going to turn up at this stage again tomorrow. But I'll say something different, I hope, not to bore you again. I very much look forward to the rest of the day. Thank you, Dasra. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for this great audience and this utterly beautiful stage where I used to come 50 years ago to watch Manoj Kumar teaching us lessons in patriotism. Thank you very much.